How young workers could lose $110,000 over Social Security costs. Young workers could lose $110,000 in lifetime earnings to keep Social Security solvent. Voter turnout has long been the highest among senior Americans, with over 80% voting regularly, making them one of the most influential voting groups in the country. Politicians, well aware of this, often try to cater to their preferences. A recent example is Congress's decision to expand the already larger standard deduction for seniors, this group, the wealthiest age group, through 2028. More distressingly, both parties seem to have embraced an approach to Social Security that avoids necessary structural reforms and instead promises to preserve benefits at unsustainable levels. The 2024 Republican Party platform pledged to not cut one penny from Medicare or Social Security. https://www.presidency.ucsb.edu/documents/2024-Republican-Party-platform. Similarly, the 2024 Democratic Party platform rejected any cuts in Social Security benefits and even promised to expand them. While these statements resonate with senior voters, they come at a high cost for younger generations. According to the latest report, https://www.sgov/oe/tar/2025/tr2025.pdf. From the Social Security trustees, Congress would need to raise the payroll tax rate immediately and permanently by 3.65 percentage points, from 12.4 to 16.05%, to close the $25 trillion, 75-year funding shortfall and pay benefits as scheduled under current law. For a hypothetical median worker entering the workforce at age 22 in 2025, this tax increase would reduce lifetime earnings by more than $110,000 in present value terms over a 45-year career. See appendix for our methodology. That's roughly equivalent to giving up 20 months of pay at the worker's average monthly wage. But even this tax hike would fall short of a lasting solution. While it might extend solvency for 75 years, it would still leave today's younger workers vulnerable, paying higher taxes throughout their careers only for Social Security to face steep funding shortfalls late in their lives. To understand the full scope of the challenge, it's helpful to look beyond the 75-year window. The trustees also present projections over what they call the infinite horizon, estimating the total gap between promised benefits and expected tax revenues for all generations, past, present, and future. On this basis, Social Security faces a staggering $73 trillion shortfall in present value terms. Closing this massive shortfall while keeping current law benefits unchanged indefinitely would require an immediate and permanent payroll tax increase of 5.2 percentage points, from 12.4 to 17.6%. For the median worker described above, this would translate into a lifetime earnings loss of about $157,000. Or the equivalent of 29 months of pay at their average monthly wage. Figure 1 shows the lifetime payroll tax burden for the median worker from 2025 to 2070 under current law, and 2 alternative solvency scenarios. The dips in annual tax burdens reflect variations in earnings over the course of a median worker's career. We can also examine how these payroll tax increases would affect a worker earning the median wage today. A full-time, year-round worker earning $66,636 in 2025 would see an annual tax increase of $2,432, from $8,263 to $10,695 to keep Social Security solvent over 75 years. To make Social Security permanently solvent, the annual tax hike would climb to $3,465, for a total of $11,728 per year. See Figure 2. That's roughly equivalent to losing 2 weeks of pay for 75-year solvency, and about 2.7 weeks of wages under the infinite horizon scenario. The severity of what these payroll tax rate increases would mean for most American households explains why neither party has endorsed raising the rate to cover the cost of full benefits. No politician running for re-election would want to be on the record for raising payroll taxes by $2,432 or $3,465 for the typical U.S. worker. This raises the $25 trillion question. If raising the payroll tax rate sufficiently to cover the cost of currently legislated benefits is untenable, how then will politicians avoid benefit cuts when Social Security's trust fund becomes insolvent? https://debt-dispatch substas.com/p/social-securities-unfunded-obligation. In 2033. Remember, both parties promised not to cut benefits. Should Congress decide to continue borrowing to cover Social Security's cash flow deficits beyond 2033, U.S. bondholders may demand higher yields in response to a clear abdication of fiscal responsibility, driving up interest costs and increasing the risk of a full-blown debt crisis. This approach could also result in higher inflation down the road, with the U.S. government eventually coming to rely more heavily on the Fed for financing its unsustainable deficit spending. https://www.cato.org/blog/threat-fiscal-money-printing-finance-rising-debt-challenge. Instead of making necessary fiscal corrections, even eliminating the Social Security tax cap, making all earned income subject to payroll taxes, won't solve the program's financial issues over the long term. As the Manhattan Institute's Jessica Riedel has detailed, https://Manhattan Institute/article/problems-with-eliminating-the-social-security-tax-cap. Eliminating the payroll tax cap would only cover half of the long-term funding shortfall and would involve a massive marginal tax increase on the upper middle class, making such a proposal politically and economically challenging. Specifically, eliminating the cap would push the top marginal federal labor income tax rate above 50%, and the average top state, local and federal rate to almost 60%, which would almost certainly be on the wrong side of the Laffer curve. https://www.cato.org/blog/top tax rates are already wrong side Laffer curve least states. #text equals Americans percent 10% states percent currently tax percent traits percent above percent, i.e., above the revenue maximizing level. Importantly, eliminating the cap would generate temporary surpluses that Congress is unlikely to lock away for paying out future program benefits, instead spending the revenues elsewhere. As these surpluses would still be credited to the program's trust fund, the Treasury would later need to repay what Congress spent, most likely through trillions of new borrowing, as past experience suggests. https://www.cato.org/policy-analysis/Social Security Trust Fund myth #your solvency should not be standard successful reform. The bottom line is that promises to keep Social Security benefits exactly as currently legislated are immensely expensive for younger workers. Whether Congress tries to levy additional taxes on all workers, or only on those with earnings above the payroll tax cap. Constituents should therefore take any electoral promises that Social Security can somehow be sustained without any changes to benefits with a heap of salt. Social Security reform is coming. The real question is how this generation will balance the promise to keep seniors out of poverty in old age with keeping the American dream alive for younger generations. Our forthcoming book, Reimagining Social Security: Global Lessons for Retirement Policy Changes, explores this challenge and shows that meaningful reform is possible. Drawing on international experiences from Canada, Germany, New Zealand, and Sweden, it presents real-world examples of how other nations have stabilized and modernized their pension systems to reflect today's demographic and economic realities. These case studies offer valuable lessons for the United States, as it faces the urgent task of bringing Social Security into the 21st century. Pre-order the book. https://stored.cato.org/collections/books/products/reimagining-social-security. For a high-level summary of the book's key insights, read our recent policy analysis. https://www.cato.org/policy-analysis/rethinking-social-security-global-perspective. And sign up here for an exclusive subscriber chat. https://debt-dispatched substas.com/p/reimagining-social-security-book open to paid subscribers. https://open substas.com/pub/debt-dispatch/p/support-the-debt-dispatch-in-2025 of the Debt Dispatch. Cato Partners. https://www.cato.org/support. Congressional staff and federal agency personnel. Americans face $110,000 tax hike to save Social Security. What you need to know. Social Security faces a critical crisis as American workers may need to pay an additional $110,000 in taxes to keep the program solvent over the next 75 years, researchers have found. This shortfall threatens to destabilize the system, leaving millions vulnerable to poverty in old age. Key to understanding this challenge lies in examining how the program's financial health is deteriorating and how lawmakers are responding to its insolvency. Why it matters. Social Security provides essential financial security for tens of millions of Americans, with monthly payments distributed through the Social Security Administration (SSA) at https://www.newsweek.com/social-security-payment-dates-august-2025-2101669. However, the trust funds, two primary sources of benefits, are approaching insolvency, according to reports from the Social Security trustees at https://www.newsweek.com/social-security-running-out-money-trustees-report-20877749. Congress has yet to address this, with the current payroll tax rate of 12.4% set to limit future benefits to $176,100 annually, leaving millions without coverage. What to know? 2 trust funds fund benefits. The Old Age and Survivors Insurance, OASI, Trust Fund and the Disability Insurance, DI Trust Fund. These funds rely heavily on payroll taxes, income taxes, and interest on reserves to cover payments. The rate for employees and self-employed individuals is currently 6.2% and 12.4%, respectively, up to the $176,100 threshold. Combined, these taxes are projected to run out of money by 2034, forcing automatic benefit cuts of around 21% if no solution is found. Controversy and comment hooks. A recent report from the Cato Institute highlights the cost of maintaining benefits at current levels while ensuring financial stability would require a significant tax increase. While the current rate is 12.4%, a 16.05% increase could push the lifetime burden to approximately $484,261, or nearly $110,000 more than under current law. In response, lawmakers have introduced proposals to increase the tax rate further. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island and Representative Brendan Boyle have reintroduced the Medicare and Social Security Fair Share Act, which would apply higher taxes to wages and investment income over $400,000. Meanwhile, Republican Senator Bill Cassidy and Democratic Senator Tim Kaine propose a new investment fund to shore up benefits, with a $1.5 trillion fund invested over 75 years using a mix of stocks and bonds.